Have you ever spent 40 years of your life chasing a single number only to realize you are now terrified of actually using it? It is the great irony of the American dream that we work ourselves to the bone to reach a mountain of savings. But once we stand on top of that mountain, we are too afraid to even take a small step for fear of falling off. There are millions of retirees right now who started their journey with $1 million. And instead of seeing that balance drop, they are watching it grow to $5 million or more. You might think they are just lucky with the stock market, but the truth is far more complex and a little bit heartbreaking. This is the norm for many people, not the exception to the rule. The real question is, why are so many people hoarding wealth they will never spend while losing sleep over the fear of going broke? Today, we are going to look at the math that the financial industry often hides from you. We are going to decode why your brain is currently trapped in a saving mode that no longer serves you. Let us start with that magic $1 million number that everyone talks about. The financial industry loves this number because it is clean and it sounds impressive in a headline. You see it everywhere, from retirement checklists to television commercials. But the reality for most Americans is quite different from what the magazines tell you. The median net worth for households aged 65 to 74 is actually around $410,000. That is less than half of that mythical $1 million goal. If you hear about averages like $1.8 million, you have to be careful with the math. Averages can be incredibly misleading when you include a few billionaires in the room. Right now, you might be working an extra 5 years just to hit a benchmark that was essentially pulled out of thin air. You are delaying your freedom and skipping vacations for a number that has nothing to do with your actual life. What you truly need is your own personal number, not the one your neighbor or a news anchor thinks you should have. Let us look at what people are actually spending when they stop working. The average retired household spends about $57,800 a year. That works out to roughly $4,800 every single month. This is a comfortable life, but it is certainly not the jet-setting lifestyle depicted in movies. Here is the part that surprises almost everyone who is planning for their future. Your spending does not stay the same or go up as you get older. It actually drops significantly. People between the ages of 65 and 74 spend more than those over 75. By the time people reach their late 70s, their annual spending drops by several $1,000s. You might worry about healthcare costs, and those do go up, but everything else goes down. You travel less, you eat out less, and you stop buying stuff that you no longer need. Life simply becomes more focused and quiet. The problem is that most people plan as if they will be spending more at 80 than they did at 65. This fear is exactly what keeps people working in jobs they hate for much longer than they need to. Consider a retired couple who both worked their entire lives and are now collecting Social Security. If they receive an average of $2,000 each, that is $4,000 a month together. That adds up to $48,000 every single year. If they spend the average amount for their age, they only have a gap of about $13,000 to cover. To cover that small gap using your investments, you do not need $1 million. In fact, if you withdraw 5% of your portfolio annually, you would only need about $256,000. That is $250,000, not a full million. Many financial advisors will tell you that a 5% withdrawal rate is too aggressive. They often point to the famous 4% rule created by William Bengen in the 1990s. The idea was that if you withdraw 4% and adjust for inflation, your money should last 30 years. But here is what they often forget to mention about that study. In over 90% of the historical cases, retirees did not just survive on that money. They ended their retirement with way more money than they started with. Research shows that following this rule makes you more likely to end up with 5 times your starting wealth than running out of money. Imagine turning $1 million into $5 million while you are trying to enjoy your sunset years. This happens because the 4% rule was designed to survive the absolute worst times in history. It was built to withstand the Great Depression and the stagflation of the 1970s. If you retire during a normal or a good market, that 4% is incredibly conservative. Your diversified portfolio will likely grow much faster than you are pulling money out of it. But the story gets even more interesting when we look at actual human behavior. Most retirees do not even withdraw 4% of their savings. Major studies have found that the most common withdrawal rate is actually around 2%. When you only take 2% while the market grows at 7 or 10%, your wealth explodes. You become accidentally rich while you are still clipping coupons and worrying about the price of gas. There are 3 psychological reasons why we do this to ourselves. The first reason is habits that we have built over decades. You spent 40 years being a saver and a provider. Switching to a spending mode feels morally wrong to your brain. It is like asking a professional athlete to suddenly stop training. The second reason is something called loss aversion. Every time you see your bank balance drop, even by a small amount, it feels like you are losing a battle. Even when the math says you are perfectly fine, your primal brain sees a falling number as a threat. The third reason is the crushing weight of uncertainty. We ask ourselves, what if we live to be 100? Or what if the market crashes tomorrow? So we hoard our money just in case the world ends. Researchers call this the consumption gap, and for many people it is a tragedy of missed opportunities. We have to ask ourselves a very uncomfortable question. Is dying with a massive bank account actually the goal of your life? If you want to leave a legacy for your children or a charity, that is a beautiful thing. But many people are living like they are poor, just so they can leave a larger inheritance they never planned for. They are 70 years old with $2 million, yet they agonize over the cost of a plane ticket to see their grandkids. That is not being smart with money. That is being controlled by fear. Some of these people will die with all that money untouched. They will have denied themselves the trips and the hobbies they always dreamed of. Let us look at a different way of thinking about your future. What if you just want to know your personal number so you can start living today? If you are a single retiree with Social Security, your gap might be around $36,000. To cover that, you would need less than $800,000 in total savings. If you are a couple that wants to live a little larger and spend $75,000 a year, you still only need around $540,000 if you are withdrawing 5%. Do you see the pattern here? When you include Social Security and accept that spending drops as you age, the targets change. That $1 million goal starts looking more like a marketing campaign than a necessity. The median retirement savings for people approaching 65 is only about $200,000. Yet millions of people are living stable and comfortable lives. This is because the system is built in layers. You have Social Security, perhaps a small pension, some home equity, and your modest savings. When you add those layers together, you are often in much better shape than the headlines suggest. In fact, about a quarter of retirees rely on Social Security for almost all of their income. And many of them are doing just fine because their housing costs are low and their lifestyle is simple. Social Security is a guaranteed income stream that shows up every month like clockwork. It does not care what the stock market is doing today. The real risk in retirement is not falling a little short of $1 million. The real risk is chasing the wrong target and wasting your best years of health. What if you worked 5 extra years of high stress to hit a number you did not even need? Those are 5 years of your life that you will never get back. 5 years you could have spent traveling or being with the people you love. So how do you find your actual number? Step 1 is to write down what your life really costs right now. Not what a website says it should cost, but your actual bills and groceries. Step row is to add up all of your guaranteed income sources like Social Security. Step 3 is to find the gap between those two numbers. Step 4 is to divide that gap by a withdrawal rate like 4 or 5%. That is your number. It might be 400,000 or it might be 1 million. What matters is that it is your number based on your reality. Retirement is not a finish line that you cross once. It is a lifestyle that you are funding. If that lifestyle costs less than you thought, you might already be free. The tragedy is not the person who retires with $800,000. The tragedy is the person who could have retired at 62, but worked until 67 for a number that did not matter. Do not let yourself be a victim of 5 extra years of commutes and office politics. Run your own numbers today. Stop chasing the headlines and start chasing your life. The math is simpler than the industry wants you to believe. The targets are lower than they want you to think, and your timeline to freedom might be much shorter than you ever imagined. Your future is waiting for you to stop worrying and start living.